Hi, everybody. This is Janai Moorhead with Foundation Consultants. And I'm coming to you with an odd question because of the times that we're in. And the question is, when do I need a business loan? So, of course, because of the times we're in, we still in a pandemic, and there has been a lot of economic problems concerning that. And so I'd like to address this question because there has been many products, wonderful products, the EIDL loan, the PPP loan, that's the payroll protection loan, and many other stimulus products that even our different states have given us. But still and yet, we still have to be wise. I'll change my picture over here so you can see me a little bit better. We still have to be wise. And so as I was reading this morning, looking over some of my emails, I saw that some of the economic stimulus packages are closing down, but there still is a great need for cash inflow for the businesses in our country. And so I wanted to kind of regress and go back to some of the things that I have talked to my entrepreneur students about and just give you a little wisdom, just in case you are thinking about a business loan or wanting a little bit more insight into when do you need a business loan. So let's reframe the question. Why do I need a business loan? Okay. And that is primarily to increase your working capital. So I always used to tell many of my students, and I'll share with you that um, when they ask, can I get a business loan? Then I always used to drop down to the last question um, in this presentation right here at the bottom, uh, which is, do you have the income or capital to pay it back? I didn't even get to why yet. Okay, I just asked, do you have the income or capital to pay it back? And primarily, I went to that question because I wanted to know, have they done anything to increase their capacity in their businesses? Okay. But they were just at the beginning, and all of a sudden they came up against the biggest roadblock ever, which was starting a business and needing and having that type of business that needed an capital or startup capital. Okay. So at that point, what we did as a class, because I only have one brain and so many brain cells, okay, what we did as a class is we would fill up an entire uh, board full of ideas on how to raise capital, how to get cash to start up the businesses that they wanted. And the reason I did that is because we can discuss it, one or two people can discuss it back and forth. But when you have a multitude of people who think differently, then they can help you to come to conclusions about the easiest and fastest way to raise capital for a small business. And just to let you know a little bit about my entrepreneur class, I taught it in a college, and I was tasked to teaching a group of students who did not qualify for an SBA loan. And so SBA loans were off the chart for them as far as the type of businesses they want to open, and the criteria and benchmarks for the SBA loans, which is the Small Business Administration loans. So, so then I got this group of really hardworking people, and we put our minds to getting together and understanding why we needed capital and what we can do to get it. Okay, so but anyway, so why do I need a business loan? Back to my presentation, of course, to increase working capital. So, in order to increase working capital, you have had to have had working capital, and now you need more to make more money. Okay. You also need a business loan. You may need a business loan to purchase equipment, real property, or inventory. Now, um, just because you need it um, doesn't mean you're going to get a loan. But if you have equipment, real property, or if you need you need to purchase equipment, real property inventory, that means you need more of it. Okay, so let's look at our sewing machine or embroidery machine analogy in the next slide, because this is a real situation that I came up with. It may be a small one, but these small businesses turn out to be large, gigantic factories very quickly. Okay, so what is debt supposed to do? Build wealth and income. And so, using my embroidery machine analogy, I had a student who had a very nice business doing embroideries on different things, baseball hats, uh, uh, company, T-shirts, things like that. Okay, or whatever people needed embroidery, and she could mass produce. So that was a wonderful thing. But as she was building wealth and income, she actually fast or quickly became the lead person in her family that was bringing in all the money. So the problem that she brought to the class was, should she buy a new machine, and where is she going to get the capital from? Because her old machine is was breaking down, and she paid $3,000 for her old machine. She understood how to fix her machine, but every time it broke down, it would set her back thousands of dollars waiting on parts. Okay, so that was the question that that she brought to us. Okay, should I get a loan, and should I buy a new machine that costs maybe $6,000 or $7,000? Okay, or should I limp along, keep my own machine, which she loved and knew very dearly, and should she just buy new parts for it? Well, the machine was building wealth and income. Okay, but the repairs were breaking her down. So overwhelmingly, and I know what you're thinking, yes, and we agreed. The whole class said, please get rid of that machine. Okay, so there's a couple ways that we proposed a couple ways that she could do it. Okay, she could put aside a certain amount of her money and plan. Okay, and then she had the support, because she was a lead income maker. She did have the support of her family and friends, and so we actually put a plan together for her. The whole class did, on how she could um, do a few things, two or three things at the same time, to get that money. Okay, and then that would increase her income. Probably, we asked her, how much would it increase her income? She said probably double or triple. We said go for it. Okay, all right. So my classes are working classes. We just don't do textbook and answer the question. We actually come up with solutions among us. So that's one thing. So that was the embroidery machine analogy. So here's another question that I used to tackle, and that is, do I need to go into debt to build credit? And the answer is absolutely not. Okay. So I believe in planning your purchases with cash savings, or a plan to pay off debt, because sometimes you do need some debt. You need to make a small loan, but you need to have a plan before you make that loan to pay it off, because there's a lot of people that are absolutely willing to give you a very high interest bad debt. Okay, all right. So you do not need to go into debt to build credit. Okay. So before I go into my buying a home analogy, I will tell you that many of my students were from foreign countries, and so the way that we build credit was foreign to them, really foreign. Okay, and many of them were like, as soon as I started talking about it, they started shaking their hands like, nope, not in my country, nope. And so I remember one wonderful young man, I was introducing the concept, the American concept of building credit. And he had this really frown, frown. I said, "Sir," I said, "something wrong? Am I saying something wrong?" Okay. And he said, "No." He said, "As you're talking," he said, "I'm getting really angry." And I said, "Oh, can I help you? If you need to step outside." Okay. And he said, "No." He said, "When I came to this country," he said, "I was debt free." And he said, "My friends told me," because he wanted to build a business. He said, "My friends told me that the way that you get credit is to go into debt in America." And because they believed it, he said, I believed it. And he said, "I've only been here 3 months and I'm $4,000 in debt and nothing has come of it." Okay. And when he told me his business, uh, it was amazing. It was amazing. So he then came to me a few days after class and he said, "I've got to go back to my country." I said, "Is everything all right?" And he goes, "Yes." He said, "I'm going to reverse this whole thing and put things in order so that I don't do this again." Okay. So you have to remember that the concept of going um, into debt to build credit has been built into the American society. Okay. Some of you don't agree with me, but I'm going to talk about that. All right. So I always say I never fight anybody about that because we believe what we want to believe. But then I just go to the buying a home analogy. Okay. And then we go through all of the material and what we need to buy a home in the United States. And so at in the beginning, people tell you you need to go into some debt to build your credit to show the creditors that you can pay it off. But here's the problem. We are human beings, okay? And sometimes we can't control ourselves. So we go into more debt than we should, and then we have a higher debt than our income. It's called a ratio, okay? We have more uh, uh, the debt that we have is more of a percentage of our income, okay, than it should be. So when we go and buy a home, then basically almost the same people who told us to build the credit with debt now tell us that you have credit cards and you have this and you have that, okay? And so then you have to start another process of paying those down. And maybe you made a few mistakes along the way. Okay. So I always say that when you are thinking about building your credit, okay, with debt, the first thing you should do is to go and see what it takes to buy a home or real estate and follow those principles. Okay. So that's what I have to say about that. So, and I always tell certain members of my family who come to me and uh, and want wonderful things. I love people to have wonderful things. I want you to have the best. Okay. So the way that I handle that is I rarely say no. In fact, I don't even say no. I just say plan your purchase with cash savings or a plan to pay off the debt very quickly. Okay. All right. So that takes the sting out of stuff. When you tell people no, they get, all, twisted. Okay. All right. But if you sit down with them and say, okay, that's your dream. Okay. All right. You want the fancy vacation, the diamonds, the car, the house, or, whatever. Okay. All right. The second house. So I always say, yes, you can, because you don't want to be a dream killer. Okay. But what you want to do is you want to sit down together, if it's a spouse or with your family member, whatever, and you want to plan it. Okay. All right. What you got in the savings, what you got in the cash, and what's the short-term plan to pay it off. Okay, all right, so that's my buying home analogy. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here's another question. Okay, the question is, for you to think about, okay, will the debt pay back more than I put in? Okay, all right. Will the debt pay back more than I put in? So that is when you know, okay, that that it is what we call good debt, all right? Because then now you have the ability, if you take out debt, such as, okay, it could be, and there are exceptions, it could be like a student loan, okay, all right, or taking a second out on your home to put into business, all right, okay. So will the debt pay back more than I put in? And whatever you use or build wealth, whatever you build with the debt, okay, is it able to pay the note on the loan that you took out rather, okay? So you need to ask yourself those really important questions. If it doesn't, then don't do it, okay? And I say there's always exceptions to the rule, always, okay, all right? There are we're in an exception now. We're in an exception with the pandemic, okay, where the rules have changed, okay, and so I also saw an exception after I graduated. I concentrated, graduated from college, and I concentrated on my skill level rather than moving up the ladder to the master's, the PhD, and those are wonderful things, okay. But I had a choice to make, okay. So when I concentrated on my skill level, right, then I noticed that some of the places that I was in, I was competing with PhDs and masters, but my skill level got me in the door. Okay. So I was kind of glad that I didn't take out a loan for the masters and the PhD. So that worked for me. Okay. So do what works for you. Here's a key factor. You should not be working more for debt than it works for you. Okay. So if you have to go to work and it takes you 5 hours out of your day every day, okay, to make that note to pay off that debt, then it's not a good debt. Okay. You should not be working more for debt than it works for you. Your debt should be working for you. All right. And so your focus and your priorities is that if you have to take out a loan, okay, that it should work for you and that you don't have to beg your debt to go on vacation, to pay for your daughter's wedding, okay, all right, or even to buy a new suit or a new dress, that it should be working for you, all right. So we have reached the end of the presentation. So those are my thoughts on debt. This is some of the things that I teach my class, okay? Um, and I hope that it has been a help to you. We're not out of trouble in our pandemic, but there are a lot of things to think about now that some of the loan programs are closing. Some of the government loan programs are moving on. There are a lot of private loan programs, but buyer beware, buyer beware, and think about that. But think about the alternatives rather than um, than just going out there and giving your firstborn. But think about some of the alternatives that you can do before you take out that loan. This is Janai Moorhead with Foundation Consultants, and I hope that everything is well for you. Please remember to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel. Take care now.